What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports, and in this video we're going to be going over MLB hitter fantasy scores, how to translate sportsbooks lines, directly convert them over to the Prizepicks fantasy score formula, and popping it out and showing you guys the best plus EV opportunities. Unlike other player prop markets, the fantasy score market just simply doesn't exist on the sportsbooks. Each different app, talking about DraftKings, FanDuel, Underdog, Prizepicks, they all have individual fantasy score calculations. And there's really no uniform way to calculate fantasy scores, which is why we derive our fantasy score calculations and our projections based on sportsbooks lines and develop our own market. The way that we do that is we take a look at each individual player prop in Prizepicks' fantasy score calculation. For instance, if we take a look at MLB fantasy score calculations, which is exactly what we're talking about in this video, each specific player prop that goes into that calculation, let's go down the line and go down each way that this is calculated in terms of fantasy score. So player singles is involved in the calculation. We have player doubles, we have player triples, player home runs, player RBIs, player runs, player batting walks, and also player stolen bases. All those are put into one single formula for Prizepicks. There's also player hit by balls, which is a very, very low percentage, and I think the league average is like one time per game. So we went ahead and we added on like an extra 0.07% chance for the player to get hit by a ball. Regardless, that's barely going to move the line. So what we then do is we find the near even line. And what I mean by that, a near even line, a 50-50 chance. What the books are giving a 50-50% chance for each specific player prop to go over or under that player prop. For instance, let me explain. So if John Smith, random name, has a player singles line of 0.5, and his even line happens to be at 0.5, let's, for the sake of simplicity, changes to 50% odds. We are saying that he, at least according to the sports books, has a 50% chance to go over one player single or under one player single. That, by theory, is the most accurate projection for player singles for that sports book. And by an even line, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about the juice added to both the over and under of a certain line. So for this exact example that we're talking about, his over juice line would have to be minus 115 to go over 0.5 singles, and under 0.5 singles would also have to be minus 115 juice. You take out the juice on both sides, and you're getting a 50-50 chance. Now let's go over the player doubles. We know it's very unlikely for a normal average MLB hitter to get a player double. So usually the juiced line is very much so on the under of 0.5 player doubles. So what we do, and there's a fair odds calculator online if you guys want to go look at it, we have to take out the juice of both sides of the over and under, and then correlate that to an exact percentage. Every single sportsbook under the sun has some hidden odds percentage based on the amount of juice that they add to an over and under line. So again, for John Smith to get a player double, it looks like he has an 18.75% chance to go over 0.5 player doubles. We take out the over and under juice of each specific player prop given the calculation for Prizepicks fantasy score, and we do that for every single prop involved in that calculation, for player triples, for player home runs, for player RBIs, player runs, you guys get it. And then we take a look at the multipliers put into the Prizepicks fantasy score calculation. So, for instance, player singles, if you get one player single on Prizepicks, you get 3 points. For player doubles, you get 5. For player triples, you get 8. For a home run, you get 10. For player RBIs, that's the one I'm looking at, player RBIs, you get 2. For runs, you get 2. And then also for walks, you get 2. And then for player stolen bases, you get 5. So then what we do is we take the fair odds percentage, then multiply that times the multiplier. So for player singles, 50% chance to get one player single. That would mean 1/2 of 3, which would be the multiplier, which means his player single, at least based on the sportsbooks lines, is going to be 1.5 total points for that specific player. We add all that into the calculator, and then we get 5.8 points for this exaggerated example. Another piece of logic that we threw into our fantasy score calculations is that we have to have at least 6 qualifying player props within this Prizepicks fantasy score calculation for this to spit out a fantasy score. So what I mean by that, if John Smith only has player single odds and player home runs, again, exaggerated example, then we won't throw an overall calculation based on that lack of data. There's actually a lot of MLB player props that or a lot of players in general that just simply don't have odds for like player stolen bases, maybe even player walks. But if they have 6 of the 8, then we think that's more than enough data to come up with a calculation. And then we can base under the assumption that the other player props that just don't have data have a very low percentage chance anyway. And then, it is what it is. So this in a nutshell is how we do the fantasy score calculation. This is also for NBA. If you guys want to check out the other video, I did a brief explanation on that as well. But we then take a look here at the Prizepicks All Sports Optimizer. We'll go ahead and take a look at the raw calculations. Everything that I just talked about, and I haven't refreshed since last night, so I don't have the update here. But now that the page is loaded, we have all of our fantasy score calculations under the hood going 24/7, automatically calculated based on the even lines that I just talked about there on that spreadsheet. And it populates here to the MLB tab under Prizepicks Fantasy Scores. This screen is completely free, at least right now. So to take a look here, Kyle Schwarber, set to 7 on Prizepicks. We have his fantasy score calculation at 8.1. It looks like the book, and that looks like DraftKings is viewing this as an 8.1 fantasy score calculation, a little bit higher than Prizepicks. So then we have that on the MLB fantasy score tab here under the MLB tab. And then we also, under the Prizepicks Optimizer, like to display this as an actual line. So given, the discrepancy between the Prizepicks line and the fantasy score line that we derived here on DraftKings, we are giving this a 53.7% chance of Kyle Schwarber, 53.7% chance to hit the over here on DraftKings, and this is the fair odds line for that exact percent chance. So yeah, looking at the board now, there's no plus EV plays. I like to have between the 1 to 1.5 buffer. And it really depends on the slip as well. So if there is a 1.5 buffer, then that's a really good plus EV play for MLB fantasy scores. But that's pretty much it, guys. That's how we calculate fantasy scores. We like to do it all automatically here on the back end. If you guys did enjoy this content, please do hit that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course, smash that like button for all of our future MLB content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.